Oh, this is not a drill. What you're looking at is the actual films from the USS Saratoga, and the wind direction instruments that directed her into the wind. It is the story of the little instrument that could. Bendix Friez Aerovane 120 and its restoration. First, we look at the original model by Bendix Friez back in 1948. She was presented to us in a rather discomforting position with bullet holes and corruption and you name it. It was a museum piece that was presented to us. It's a story of its restoration. So what you need to do this was simply a lot of American ingenuity. A lot of research and development went into this little film clip that we're doing here. And it is absolutely imperative that you have a good workshop. In doing so, you need at least about 400 square feet of workspace. Before you is the Mammoth Electric version, a U.S. Army version that we originally had been working on quite a few years ago. In the foreground. In the background is the drill press that we needed to be able to reconstruct some of the final components. You needed a good battery of electronics, and of course, what else? Diagrams, instructions. This is the Weston 750 tachometer, which was based on Carl Gustav's patent in 1948. Here you can see the actual Aerovane in its original form, and which was adopted by the Bendix Corporation, Bendix Friez Corporation. It was really based on simple aerodynamics. The aerodynamics of this was based on really quite amazing history of its dynamics. And the propeller, which I'm showing here, was really quite an amazing feat. It was based on thousands of years of aerodynamics, fluid dynamics, from Archimedes spirals to whatever. It went on from there and developed in the late 1940s a tachometer. The Weston 750 tachometer was the instrument that actually measured the wind speed. Its direction was accompanied by the synchro. We'll get later on to that. Here I am in the laboratory showing the components of the tachometer. This is an early 1940 model as I compared to the propeller and the brushes, which were severely worn, the capacitor, which was mandatory for low speed. We'll get into the electronics of this at a later date. Here's the wind speed magneto, the capacitor, and the collector rings. Now, the collector rings were really quite important. They had to be cleaned all the time to transfer the information to the indicator, the wind speed on the right and the wind direction on the left. Now, this particular instrument was done for the Weather Bureau in control towers. The particular dimensions of the Aerovane propeller as depicted here, was done in by a paper done by Sensuski in 1951. I'll get into that later. Here I am in the early stages of repairing through Bondo and the other materials that I used to get into the final aerofoil that was needed. I'm comparing it with an Army version. This one I'm looking at is the one that I'm restoring is the bullet hole version of the U.S. Navy on the Saratoga CVS-60. This is an extraordinary instrument that went back into the Vietnam War. It was put in storage and ultimately into a museum piece in California. Now, one of the problems with the restoration was, of course, contamination. I had an amazing amount of ability to get that thing unglued from it. Here is the original synchro and diagram from the Aerovane, and I had ordered some surplus, new old surplus NOS Navy Ordnance synchros to replace the one that was really worn out and basically restored through a lot of ingenuity, American ingenuity. Here's the problem with the original the problem was that it did not encompass, or the restoration did not have the O-ring to abate the contamination in the from the salt seas. And you can see at this point I'm looking at how to reinstall the new synchro motor, the correct wiring which had been corrupted through neglect. This is the original O-ring that was not applied, which caused its corruption. And that's it. Next, we are going to go back into history and to find out what really inspired this instrument. The little instrument that could.
We'd now like to do our original version of Paul Revere's famous ride. When Paul Revere hung the lamp in the steeple, the revolution began. 'Twas the light of freedom from the old North Church that was soon seen round the land. Ride, ride, ride on Paul Revere, ride on to Concord, on to Lexington. Ride, 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 ride on to warn the Minutemen. The British are coming, the British are coming, was the cry heard all through the night. He warned John Adams and he warned John Hancock, and the Redcoats missed them that night. Ride, ride, ride on Paul Revere, ride on to Concord, on to Lexington. Ride, 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 ride on to warn the Minutemen. They left their land, they left their homes when they heard this was the day. They took their muskets and they brought their courage. Paul Revere had shown them the way. Ride, ride, ride on Paul Revere, ride on to Concord, on to Lexington. Ride, 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 ride on to warn the Minutemen. the British and the fighting started. 'Twas a shot heard all round the world. They showed their courage and they did not falter, and the flag of freedom unfurled. Ride, ride, ride on Paul Revere, ride on to Concord, on to Lexington. Ride, ride.